I know this is a bit of a wild card scenario here, but what if we take everybody at their word that Merrick Garland really isn't a political animal? He's politically clueless. He doesn't know how to navigate things. If that's the case, he probably doesn't even realize he's being played by his own team. There had been a number of stories that came out, if you recall, over the past few weeks of the Biden administration trying to emphasize to Garland that something needed to be done about Trump. We know that there are partisans inside the Department of Justice. So what if they convince Garland, the time is now, we've got to go in and we've got to get these documents out of Mar-a-Lago. They've been there for quite a while. They've known they were there for quite a while. In fact, we know that the documents were returned in June. Boxes were returned and some documents were not there. So at least since June, they're not going anywhere. And they had to do it before the election. What if Merrick Garland got played because he's not a political creature, but he is surrounded by political creatures, and he is essentially their puppet? If you watch Game of Thrones, he is Tommen. And he has allowed this to happen. Now, why? Well, he's allowed it to happen because the Democrats need something to talk about other than Joe Biden. The Democrats need Donald Trump to be their focus point for the election, and it looks like it's working. Republicans are taking the bait. Republicans around the country rallying to Donald Trump. The Democrats get to cast aspersions on Donald Trump. They get to focus on him. They get to talk about him. And what are they not talking about? They're not talking about the Inflation Reduction Act. Joe Biden is signing the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Democrats are not talking about it. They're talking about Trump, which suggests they know that the Inflation Reduction Act isn't going to help them politically. The Republicans have taken the bait, unfortunately. Republicans, too, are spending their time defending Donald Trump and talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a little more popular than Joe Biden. He's very much more popular than Kamala Harris. I think Democrats forget this. Donald Trump in 2016 was able to win in large part because Hillary Clinton was not popular at all. They can say it was about Russia and all this stuff, but the Democrats, I think, are misreading the tea leaves to some degree. And you do have to keep that in mind, that the Democrats really think that they can make this about Donald Trump and that will help them in November. It comes at a time that they're experiencing a seasonal bounce anyway. And the Democrats are misreading this stuff. It was their own pollsters who said they can't fix the polls. They don't know how to fix the polls. And so the Democrats are focused, fixated, and ready to go loaded for bear on Donald Trump. Republicans have taken the bait. But what if Republicans shift back to the economy? Gas prices are coming down, but gas prices are coming down in large part because the economy is slowing down. CNBC is reporting that home builders and housing is already in a recession. People have stopped buying as interest rates have gone up. People are now priced out of the market. People can't afford the houses. They're having to save more to get houses. Gas prices have come down, but grocery prices are still high, not yet reflected in falling prices as energy prices only for gas come down. Other energy prices are still up. Natural gas, heating oil, that's still up very high. And gas is still high. It's just that it's come down from the high. It's not that it's come down to a reasonable price. It's not where it was when Donald Trump was president. Donald Trump, too, could enter the fold here. Donald Trump could make it about Joe Biden. Donald Trump could come in and say, look, my team never prosecuted Hillary Clinton. We didn't even try to prosecute Hillary Clinton. And yet the Biden team is trying their best to use the state to stop me from being able to run against him. And why? Look at the economy. Look at the economy. Gas prices are higher than when I left office. The stock market is doing worse than when I left office. Your 401k is seeing declines worse than when I was in office. COVID has not been beaten the way Biden said it was going to be beaten if you elected him. And now we have monkeypox, and they can't even address what to do about monkeypox because they're afraid of shaming people. The Republicans have a way to pivot on this. The Democrats wanted to make it about Trump, so Republicans make it about Trump and remind people that the situation you are in did not exist when Donald Trump was president with the economy. The other thing here is, of course, the media is overplaying their hand. They're back to single source stories. The media is whispers of, well, maybe there was a mole, maybe there was an informant, maybe someone was ratting out the president. That could be. Republicans seem to think that's true as well. But, you know, the FBI seized his passport. He's got 3 passports, 2 expired, 1 current diplomatic passport. The FBI seized them, and Norah O'Donnell, CBS News, I guess it is like, no, they don't have his passport. Actually, they had it. They gave it back to other law enforcement authorities to give it back to him. This has all been confirmed, and even Twitter is having to correct Norah O'Donnell and say, actually, they did take his passport. The problem here is that the FBI was allowed to take anything relevant, anything suspicious, not related to the crime, but anything suspicious that may be related to the crime that they allege happened. We don't even know what that is, if there even was one. And then anything not relevant they had to hand back, including his passports. Why they took it to begin with is overkill. And this gets back to the bottom line here. It was overkill for the FBI to go in. If we take them at their word, if we take the Department of Justice at its word, the leaked words, I should say, that this was really just about getting confidential, classified, top secret documents back to the National Archives that should not have been down there, then really there's no crime here. This isn't a prosecutorial crime. This isn't one to prosecute the president. They just retrieve the documents, they bring them back, and yet we're told there's an investigation. There's a criminal investigation. This gets to one of the points I've been making on radio. They've got to give up this Trump obsession. Essentially, what the Democrats are doing is they're determined to throw Donald Trump in prison. They just haven't figured out the way to get him there yet. And the entire public is seeing this whole thing play out in such a way where the Democrats are trying to railroad Donald Trump. They know he's guilty of something. They just got to find out what'll stick. That's not justice. That's not justice. If you think he's guilty of something, charge him with the crime. Instead, they've gone on a fishing expedition to try to find a crime that'll fit to throw him in prison. All that's going to do is fire up the Republican base. But Republicans, again, you've got to hear me. I am very serious here. You have a way to pivot this to help yourselves. If Republicans are intent on making this about Donald Trump, if they're going to take the bait, Republicans want them to make it about Donald Trump. They want them to defend Donald Trump. Republicans, you take the bait. If you do, make it about Trump's record versus Biden's. You had low gas prices under Trump. You had a good economy under Trump. You didn't have a recession under Trump. You had recovery under Trump. You had a booming stock market under Trump. And yes, you got COVID, and Biden said he would stop it and fix it and beat it, and COVID's spreading again, and the vaccines aren't working. If they want to make it about Trump, then contrast the Trump and Biden records on the economy. Contrast the Trump and Biden record dealing with Iran. Contrast the Trump and Biden record on crime. Contrast the Trump and Biden record on border security. If you're going to take the bait, at least take it smartly. Control it. Control the conversation. There's a way to move forward. The Democrats are desperate for the midterms to be all about Donald Trump. Okay. Make it about Donald Trump versus Joe Biden and the record. You now no longer have the hypothetical of Joe Biden returning America to normal. You have Joe Biden handing the country over to the crazies. You have Joe Biden handing us over to the progressives. You have Joe Biden forcing parents to accept boys on their daughters' teams. You have Joe Biden hounding schools to force them to allow boys into girls' bathrooms. You have Joe Biden allowing progressives around the country to destabilize American society, to mainstream and mainline radical gender surgeries on children without their parents' consent. You have the Biden administration shutting down American energy independence. You have the Biden administration shutting down the American economy. You have the Biden administration not doing anything to help Americans other than get a battery-powered car. That'll save you money. And you have the Biden administration passing what they call the Inflation Reduction Act that does not reduce inflation. All it is a left-wing Green New Deal packaged as a lie. Focus on that. If they want you to focus on Biden, focus on that. If they want you to focus on Trump, focus on Trump versus Biden. If they want to make it about Trump, make it about you were not miserable economically when Donald Trump was president. But really, focus on Joe Biden and his record. Bring it back to Joe Biden, Don't take the bait, Republicans. Don't take the bait. And if you do take the bait, pivot it back to Biden.